What's up, everybody? Welcome to Thursday. This is the Awesemo NBA Strategy Show. I am Adam Kaufman, joined as always. He is the only regular fixture on this show. Josh Engleman. What's up, bud?
Not too much, man. A little tired. It's been a long week so far. One more day to get through, but we've got these great 3-game NBA slates, so I can't be too mad. But we're coming up pretty closely on the end of legitimate NBA slates. We're moving directly into showdown, so I got to squeeze whatever I can out of these final couple 3-gamers.
We had wins yesterday, obviously, for the Sixers, the Knicks, and the Jazz. And hopefully many of you out there watching and listening and just taking a quick little peek in the chat here on YouTube. And appreciate you guys finding us there. And by all means, give us your comments, your feedback, your thoughts, whatever it is. We will sprinkle it in over the course of the show. How about a super chat from Anthony Davis, and a generous one at that, says, "Ayo, let's go, fellas. Hit that thumbs up. Do it. Do it for Anthony, if not for us. Hit the thumbs up. We appreciate you." And like this from Tony as well. This show's the best. Great vibes and opinions, good people. This is what it's all about here, Josh, to begin a day. You know, you want the good vibes. You want the good people. The opinions, whatever. You take them what you can get.
I just ignore most of them as much as I can, or just point out how bad some of them are. I like doing that. That's a really good time. So, we're going to move on to the next one. Look, it never ends. There's going to be days where it's really bad, no matter what. There's going to be days where it's really good, no matter what. When you're willing to put yourself out there for 300 plus days a year, you're going to step in a lot of shit.
Here's the good thing, folks. The opinions, they're great so far. We're like 2 minutes into the show, but it can only go down unless you want to flip it, take it right on up with just the utmost positivity and best vibes possible. Want to remind you, this show is brought to you by No House Advantage, as it always is, taking a different spin on daily fantasy sports by offering player prop contests across naturally the NBA, NHL, MLB, PGA, all for cash prizes, NHL when that gets going as well. This exclusively peer-to-peer fantasy sports platform levels the playing field, makes it easier for you to win real cash as compared with your traditional DFS sites. And with over 500 player prop offerings, No House Advantage is the largest provider of player props in the entire industry. The best part, new users will receive a $20 match deposit bonus today. Use the promo code Awesemo. Very easy to remember. Promo code is Awesemo. Beat your friends, not the house, and download the app in the App Store go ahead, win big with player props today. Pardon me. So, as I said, hit that thumbs up. Do it for Anthony. Appreciate all you guys. Tony says, "You're a puppet without an opinion. You got to be yourself." I don't think he's talking to you. I think he's just talking to somebody in the chat. Don't you take that personally.
I will not take that personally.
You talked about the 3-game slates, and we're running out of these. Got maybe a couple 4-gamers left, but naturally these are dwindling. Eventually, as you said, it's just going to be exclusively showdown mode. Do you called them nice little 3-game slates? Do you like them? Do you actually like them? Do you think they're nice because you enjoy them? You enjoy the lack of differentiation and more streamlined preparation, a little less variance, like I said, the fact that now we're at a time of year where you have so little changes. Like teams, for the most part, you get your injury report midday and nothing's going to change. No surprise guys ruled out or anything. Or are you maybe on? I just don't like the 3 games. I want more because I want more differentiation.
I don't. So I prefer it to like 2, and this is about it's the low limit of wanting to play a normal slate. I would rather it be 7 or 8, but I do appreciate the lack of news throughout the day. I like knowing whatever I think in the morning is probably going to be where I end up later on in the day. 3 is not ideal, but it's the best we've got right now. And at the very least, since it's 3, it's playoff basketball, so we don't have to worry with too much sort of random nonsense. That makes it feel a little bit better.
You can always appreciate, Josh, the people who are always here, like Alan. All right, Josh, small slate, extra time. Please tell Adam why Armageddon is awesome. Some loyal viewers.
Look, it does an amazing job of tugging on the heartstrings. There's a lot of really good comedy in it if you just don't treat the movie like it's supposed to be serious. And when Bruce Willis sacrifices himself at the end, that's deep. That is emotional. I love it. I love it.
Don't want to miss a thing.
Right.
Mr. Go
Great
Blue.
song.
It's such a Terrible song. Just got back from Cancun. It's great to see the faces of Adam and Josh. Took a break physically and mentally, and now it is time to get back into it. LFG. How many people do you think sort of check out after the regular season just because of what a grind it is? And maybe, as you noted, they like the 7, 8, 10 game slates, don't want to deal in the 3 gamers, just kind of say, okay, on to the next. Not interested in these pesky playoffs.
I would guess most kind of just tap out. And it's mostly because the final 2 or 3 weeks of the season are really just a mess. So I think it starts a little bit earlier than it seems when basketball stops being very predictable and we start getting into the end of the bench, 2-way guys picking up a lot of time.
Carl says, I can't lie. I love listening to you guys, even though a lot of the information has to be taken with a gram of the high class Kush.
That's good. I like it.
That's not bad. From Randall, another generous super chat here, sending out some love this morning because Awesemo and mostly Engleman helped me come in 8th in the DK contest last night for $3K and first in a $3 for another $750. Y'all have the best content every day.
Congrats, Randall. That's awesome. $3K, get it. Save a little bit for taxes.
You can get exactly. You can get the golf clap. You can get a little one of these from Josh. You got to feel good. Got to feel good. You're helping the people. It's so great to see too. I'm sure you do. I'm barely here. I'm here, once, maybe twice a week, and I will get tagged by the people on social media, on Twitter, who are like, won big tonight. Thanks so much to the Awesemo guys, a screenshot of the lineup, all that. Like, I'll get multiple of those a week. And again, I'm no one in the scope of the Awesemo world. I can only imagine how many of those you see a week.
It's a lot. I mean, it's every single night someone's going to appropriate a take or something that you said for their success. It's probably, I would say, like 90% of the time unwarranted. Very rarely is it a take where, like, I don't think other people are on it as well. I love seeing it on days that I play well. On days that I didn't have a good night, I don't like seeing it at all. I'd rather it be me.
There were definitely some fun plays last night. Looking back on that little 3-gamer here, we could do a little fantasy cruncher lineup analysis from yesterday as well, if we want to dive into that. I mean, some guys, obviously Joel Embiid let a lot of people down, me included, but yeah, Derrick Rose do real well off the Knicks bench, and that packed Madison Square Garden, which was a nice sight, albeit a little weird. Just a little weird to kind of get back to that and get used to that. I can't even imagine what it must have been like to be there, but to see it on social media, on TV, looked insane, looked really intense. Ben Simmons was awesome. Royce O'Neal, terrific. Rudy Gobert tore it up last night in a big Jazz win, north of 140 points for that Utah squad, which you don't see all the time. There were just some really good contributors. Taj Gibson was a solid value play. Mike Conley, obviously, again from that Utah game. What stood out to you?
Ja Morant dropping 47 real points, 61.5 DK points, 15 of 20 from the line, 15 of 26 from the field, 7 assists, just an absolute monster day, trying to keep Memphis in it. Really good to see. It didn't matter. Ultimately, Utah picked up the dub, but it was nice to see Ja Morant hang like a pretty big number on Utah.
In the spirit of shouting out the people who shout us out, any Hall of Famers you want to give a little love to?
I'll give my shout out back up again to Randall Robinson for finishing 8th.
There you go. I like that. Remember, folks, the Hall of Fame, you want to be recognized. Here's the deal. It's very simple. A lot of it comes down to your Awesemo handle, your avatar. That's where a big part of it comes. See, you look at these contests, you see the Awesemo avatar all over the DFS leaderboards naturally, and it's for good reason. If you rock our avatar on your DFS profile, you can win a free month of Awesemo Plus when you place within the top 3 of any GPP of 5,000 plus entries. Head on over to awesemo.com/announcements/avatar, or very simply, you can Google search Awesemo avatar for instructions on how to go ahead and download that image. Again, it's very, very easy, very, very simple, and you can be rewarded. There's really no downside to it. Plus, you get to rep the company, which certainly we appreciate as well. Keep on hitting that thumbs up. We'll tell you a whole lot more, but may as well start to get into a little bit of basketball and what we can expect from the 3-gamer that we got going on today. That is the Bucks Heat at 7:30 Eastern, then a couple of later games, Suns Lakers at 10, Nuggets Blazers at 10:30. So this is one of those nights where you got a lot of studs available to you, a lot of high price guys. Obviously at the very top, naturally it's Joker, it's Greek Freak. You got Giannis Antetokounmpo, who is he's in a great spot, projected for about 5.5x value by our guy Alex Baker. Very similar for Nick Jokic. And then you go down a little bit. There's obviously LeBron James, Damian Lillard, Anthony Davis. Then you start to get into another tier with the likes of Bam Adebayo, Devin Booker, Chris Middleton, guys like that. Who do you like best on the board among the high price guys?
Probably Giannis, although Jokic is probably a close second. LeBron, I have as my least favorite pay up option for today. So that should feel really good when he just lays the smackdown tonight, but just not my guy for tonight. I'm looking more at Giannis. I'm looking more at Nikola Jokic.
Now, what is it about LeBron that you don't like, outside of obviously just, he's been a little banged up, hasn't quite been himself?
Yeah. I mean, that's part of it to a degree. I don't think that he's definitely at his peak for right now. I don't necessarily know if he's going to play that same sort of 40 minutes that I could expect from some other guys. And more importantly than that, LeBron doesn't really have a huge standard deviation in performance. He's actually like a relatively consistent guy. And that lends to him not having the same sort of ceiling as everybody else. Now, clearly, we could see LeBron go out there and dominate a basketball game from start to finish, but it doesn't happen as much as it seems, at least not as of late. I actually prefer AD to LeBron pretty significantly today across both sites. So I just don't think he has enough variance in his performance. There's enough pay up options out there that I just simply prefer all of them.
Before doing our quick game by game or typical game by game, not so quick, we're here with you for at least another 45 minutes or so. Just looking at these series right now across the NBA in general, not just today. You got the Jazz and Grizzlies tied at 1. Clippers are somewhat surprisingly down 2-0 after a couple of losses at home to the Mavs in that series going back to Dallas. You have 1-1 Blazers Nuggets, 1-1 Suns Lakers over in the East, 2-0 unsurprisingly. Both the Nets on top of the Celtics and the Sixers ahead of the Wizards. Those series going, I think, as most people expected. 1-1 Knicks and Hawks, and 2-0 Milwaukee also up on Miami. I guess other than the Dallas Clippers series, is there anything that's surprising you to this point?
Anything that's surprising me so far? I don't think so. Heat Bucks is going like I thought it would. Lakers Suns to me is fine. Blazers Nuggets is fine. Jazz Grizzlies is going like I thought it would. Yeah, now everything is kind of just in line so far. A big story will be told, like if the Heat get it back to 2-1, if the Clippers get it back to 2-1, those will be pretty important decisions. But barring a Suns victory today, everything seems to be exactly what I was expecting it to be.
Is that something that you like about the NBA or dislike? I often will do you. All right. Because I'll often complain about, just the lack of parity in the NBA. I mean, yeah, you'll have a few teams at the top, obviously. You don't know definitively who's going to win the championship, but going into a season, if everybody stays healthy, which handful at best clubs are going to be there at the end. It's just, talent wins out. Chalk generally wins out in the NBA, especially over the course of a series. You have the play-in tournament. Things can get a little wonky, obviously, in other sports, like a hot goaltender can carry in hockey. We know the parity in the NFL. Major League Baseball pitching can screw up a good offense. The NBA is generally pretty predictable, and I don't know. That tends to be, as much as I love the sport and I love the game, that tends to be my beef with the playoffs.
I prefer it. I want the best teams to play as much basketball as possible against each other to try to determine who really is the best team. It's like tennis in a way. You don't see a lot of garbage making it to the semifinals and finals of major contests. Like, because of the way that the game is set up, naturally talent ends up winning out. And that's pretty much how it works in the NBA. Like, think about different years will matter. And teams could end up in weird spots just because of weird record quirks, but situations where the Steelers win a Super Bowl is The Giants, perfect example. They won the Super Bowl as the 6th seed, correct? In the NFC. I hate that garbage. To me, that's disgusting, because there's not a single person on the planet that thinks they're the best team when that's over. If they played the Patriots again that next day, the Patriots would be however many point favorites again. So I want it to shake out where we get as many different games, ultimately 2 7-game series on either side of what should be the two of the 3 best teams in each conference. It funnels itself down. To get to the finals as a fluke is basically impossible. I love that.
So I'm asking in the chat about tonight, who's going to be the either the Davis Bertans or Danny Green for tonight's slate?
Danny Green, by the way, in the winning lineup on DraftKings last night. So,
So dump on him all you want.
Only as bad as it seems. Look, that's why playing guys that are cheap isn't a death sentence. And when you recommend them more aggressively, because you can still win a GPP like that. But if your stud goes and drops 35 fantasy points, you're not winning shit. Who's that version of today? Probably Robert Covington.
Yeah, that's a fair point. We'll start to get into these games. I want to tell you very quickly, though, that if you're not available to watch these shows live, well, we understand life comes first sometimes, but there are shows available to you that they get archived on the YouTube page. You can go back, you can watch there weeks at a time if you want to. On top of that, obviously, we have the Awesemo Podcast Network. Almost all of our Awesemo YouTube shows are available through the Awesemo Podcast Network. We've got a podcast for every sport available on every major platform. So go ahead, head on over to awesemo.com/podcast. Check out the very latest. Leave a 5-star review on one of our podcasts with your Twitter handle or email address. You'll be eligible to win a free week of Awesemo Plus Platinum. One winner will be awarded each and every Friday. That is, of course, tomorrow, and your reviews will be saved for up to 1 year as well. So don't feel like it's a one and done thing. They get saved in the system, and we will go back, review all those. So appreciate you. And as you can see on our side panel there, we got 3 games to go through. We will start doing that now, and at the end we'll do a little odd shopper and DVD pull, because we know the real reason you're here. It's not for your DFS advice at 10 a.m. all these hours before lock. You want to find out what random movies are on the wall behind me that really rival Armageddon like everything else does. So let's begin with the Bucks and Heat. It's first game, obviously, available to all of us tonight. The only one that we'll be able to watch for a little while as well. And going with the road team first, Milwaukee here. Obviously, Giannis, who, like you said, you're a big fan of. You can expand upon that. Any other guys for Milwaukee that jump out at you? Maybe some of the mid-tier guys like Dante DiVincenzo or Brook Lopez, guys like that.
You landed on it. Dante DiVincenzo, actually, my favorite guy from Milwaukee today. He's picking up the most ownership on FanDuel, but I think it's warranted. I actually think that he's slightly under-owned, even given that heavy ownership. 5,300 on FanDuel. He's 5K on DraftKings. I think he's under-owned on DK as well. Just the position for today and the salary range. He's a guy that I expect to play north of 30 minutes if this game's competitive. And right now, we don't have a ton of paydown options, so getting it in the 5K range kind of has to happen. Other than that, I see the rest of Milwaukee as relatively similar. I think Giannis, Chris Middleton, and Drew Holiday all look really, really similar relative to salary on FanDuel. And that's the same story on DraftKings, although I would also add in Brook Lopez as well. I think he's going a little under-owned at 4,700 on DK, but I see these guys as all about, 20%ers on DK, maybe 25% on FanDuel. Dante DiVincenzo is in a different tier there. We're talking 30, 35 on FanDuel specifically. Given him the makeup of shooting guard, I have Dante DiVincenzo in the optimal lineup north of 40% of the time. What
makes you want to stay away from some of the not all the way up on the board, obviously, like a Giannis, but those higher price guys like a Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton? What don't you like about their spot tonight, or does it just come down to maybe other guys in better spots across the other games?
Oh, I like them. To me, Middleton is under-owned on FanDuel. Drew Holiday is probably properly owned. Middleton is $800 cheaper than Drew Holiday on FanDuel, but it's sort of the reverse on DK.
Yeah.
But I think Drew's under-owned on DraftKings. I think Middleton is properly owned on DK. I think 8K is probably a little too expensive. It's not that I don't like these guys. I just think the ownership is basically exactly where it should be. So if you like Chris Middleton today, if you like Drew Holiday, I have no qualms with putting him in the lineup. They're going to be in probably 20 to 25% of everything that I do. I just don't see them as oddly different than the public. I'm just holding hands right now.
Alex has Giannis projected for in the neighborhood of 60 points tonight. How's that line up with what you have?
I'm at 58.6 right now. So I'm a little bit lighter, but we're in the same sort of ballpark.
Mm-hmm. All right. So that's one stud to think about. Now you could go down to some cheaper guys that are in that similar price point to the Holidays, the Middletons, that maybe are more compelling plays over on the Miami side. Jimmy Butler, who's $8,400 on DraftKings. Bam Adebayo, who is $7,500 there. Both these guys projected for very nearly 6x value and up over 40 fantasy points as well. So it's top heavy. Not to say there aren't other good plays on Miami. There are. We can get there. But as far as those premier options, what do you think?
Oh, God. This is going to be a weird game. Who wins this game for you?
Milwaukee. Milwaukee wins for me.
3-0. Well, it's going to be interesting because
this isn't last year's Miami squad. Maybe in part because they're not getting the same contribution from the depth guys. You know, like has anyone mentioned Tyler Hero's name one time in this series in a favorable way?
I've been mentioning it in non-favorable ways since last year, but no one wanted to listen to it then because they thought having 2 good games made you like really, really good. It's not true. It didn't. Goran Dragic didn't get enough help. Didn't get enough love series for what he did.
Yeah, I think that I can see why people would go with Miami and a response at home, falling behind 2-0, and Jimmy Butler is certainly one of the, like, that's a guy that you want on your side in terms of a no quit mentality. But yeah, I think 3-0.
So Jimmy Butler is 9,100 on FanDuel today and 8,400 on DraftKings. Regardless of what we think is going to happen today, Jimmy Butler is one of the best plays of the day. He's projected for north of 40% ownership. I completely agree with it. His price is just completely wrong, especially on DK. 8,400 for a guy that's going to play probably 40 minutes to try to keep his team alive. I'm just going to take my chances on Butler. One of the best plays you can have for today. The other guy that I like to get to here, if you think that Miami's going to do everything they can to keep it close, I'd like to get to Bam. 8,200 on FanDuel, 7,500 on DraftKings, about 30% owned, and I agree with it. The rest of these Miami guys, though, they're kind of where they should be. Like it's hard to get really excited over Trevor Ariza at around 5K. He's like a 20%er. I'd like to see more out of Goran Dragic, but the ownership is already there. To me, I'm looking at this, and it's more, I'll probably be slightly lighter on Miami, which scares me a little bit. But if everybody's already got 20% of Nunn and 20% of Duncan Robinson, I'd rather just have like 10 to 15 and find some value elsewhere.
Dragic, Robinson, a couple more guys Alex likes tonight. How do you feel about their projections? Where do you have those two guys?
Basically the same for right now. Duncan Robinson's one of those weird guys that I generally have pretty lightly projected. There's only one path for Duncan Robinson to be good. It's that he's going to get a ton of threes. So more often than not, he's going to look bad, show up in optimal lineups fairly infrequently. And 1 out of every 10 games, he's just going to go bonkers and make like 8 or 9 threes. And that's what pays it off. So I'm rarely fond of those type of guys. So I'm not huge on Duncan Robinson. I assume Tyler Hero continues to be bad. The guy that I would have my eye on right now would be Andre Iguodala at the flat minimum. Whatever Miami has been doing over the first 2 games doesn't appear to be totally working. So I'm wondering if they use Iggy a little bit more, maybe get him into the low 20s in minutes, maybe take a couple minutes off of Ariza. I don't know if Iggy still has it in the tank, but if he picks up a couple extra minutes being at the flat minimum, I think that's a spot you could see him be a little bit better in game 3.
Beauty of the NBA playoffs, obviously, we talked about it earlier, is this, there are very few changes. You know, you're not going to have those last minute guys ruled out, barring something pretty significant. We have a good sense right now, even, never mind waiting for the tip-off show or whatever it may be later, obviously live before lock. We have a good sense of what these lineups are going to look like and minutes and all of that stuff, injuries, obviously. But in the event something wild does happen, you want to make sure you stay up to date with all your latest NBA DFS news. Watch all these great shows that are available throughout the day here on the Awesemo YouTube channel and, of course, the podcast network. But the @Awesemo NBA Twitter handle, again, @Awesemo NBA. Our guy News God, who is in the chat hanging out with us as well, will be delivering delivering all of the latest on minutes, on injuries, on starters, all that good stuff daily before lock, as he always does. Again, that's at Awesemo NBA on Twitter, or he has got his own handle as well. It is the News God Twitter handle, at News God DFS, at NEWZ God _ DFS. Be sure to catch today's deep dive article from our man Ship My Money, the other Adam, the Adam with the beard. It's free to you throughout the season and a must read if you are playing NBA DFS tonight. So 2 more games for us to get into here, 1 down, and these now the later games. Before we specifically dive into the plays and the matchups and all of that, do you take time into account whatsoever with a 3-game slate like this, where you have the 1 early game and the 2 later ones for lineup building purposes, or, in the same way that you might during the regular season, where you say stack the later games because there are still things that are in flux and you want to wait for it? Does that not matter to you at all this time of year because of everything I just said?
No, I don't think it matters at all. It does matter more in the regular season because you have more potential for late news to get into. I don't think you're going to see that sort of news in these situations. So to me, I'm just building it, and I generally have no idea what time the games are going to happen.
Yeah, I'm generally with you. So let's talk Phoenix and the Lakers here. First, for the Suns, Devin Booker is obviously your priciest option and will probably get you the most, projected. I shouldn't even say probably. He is projected to get you the most fantasy points, but it's very close to Chris Paul, who is definitely in a better spot based on salary and points per dollar. You could make a case for obviously Bridges, maybe DeAndre Ayton, depending on which site you're looking at as well. I don't really like any of the value guys here. What do you think? What jumps out to you with Phoenix?
I want all of the Mikal Bridges today. 5,300 on FanDuel, 5,200 on DraftKings. I actually have him projected less than Alex right now, but I have him almost twice as frequently in the optimal on FanDuel, just given the makeup of the position. There's just not a lot there. And then on DraftKings, we have him projected for 19% ownership. I have him at like 29. It's not even close. I love getting to Bridges. I love that value spot. And again, he's not like some per minute dynamo, but we only have so many places to grab minutes and try to buy them cheaply. And I think Bridges is one of those spots. After that, I think Booker is properly owned across both sites. He's a little expensive on DraftKings. On FanDuel, it works just because the position stinks. Chris Paul is going to be a real big wild card. I have no concept of his health. 7,400 across both sites. Probably just not for me today. I could see someone like Cam Johnson falling into a couple extra minutes on DK. He's 3,700. That would be an interesting spot for value. I just don't know how we go to someone like Cam Payne at this point. 5,300 on FanDuel, 4,800 on DraftKings. You have to expect Chris Paul to play like 20 minutes for Cam Payne to have a really solid projection today. So I don't think we can get there anymore. I think the value is mostly gone.
See some arguing going on in the chat. I don't even know what about, to be perfectly honest with you, because it's just not productive arguing. I highlighted for this reason, folks. Got our guy Jordan, who is producing this show, and he's going to get impatient. He's in the chat. He's going to get the band hammer out. Anything could happen. You don't want to irritate the guy. Josh and I, we're fine. Jordan, he's going to be just running around, hitting people with the band broom and knocking people out. You don't want to see it. Don't want to see it. So let's get it together. I mean, even Rishi Hobson has just joined. Chat, who are we roasting? Don't roast. Give us your feedback, your thoughts, your questions on the slate tonight. We're here for it. You got us. We've got you. I mean, it's a very Armageddon mentality.
It absolutely. I love it. By the way, I do want to put this out there. I think Phoenix is probably going underrepresented in ownership. If Mikal Bridges isn't your cup of tea, Jay Crowder's 4,400 on DraftKings. Like, roll your dice there. One of those two guys is going to play extended minutes in a competitive game. They're both under-owned to me, so I'd like to get to both of them and hope for the best. But I would happily make sure that I had one of the two.
Hit the like. We're just about at 100 here on the YouTube page on the old thumbs up. So keep on smashing that like. Hit the subscribe button as well. Appreciate it. Other side of that game is Phoenix or the Lakers, pardon me. And with LA, I just, I'll tell you what, Alex doesn't have any of these guys projected to be in a good spot. None of them. And I know you said LeBron is not a guy that you're all that interested in tonight. Not to say you're not prepared to be wrong on that, because at the same time, it is LeBron. But we had, Davis went off last time out. You had, Schroeder had a really good game. Obviously, we know what LeBron is capable of. Some of the others as well, just a couple nights ago, What is it, do you think that's bad for LA this time around?
I think most of LA is bad today, but there are a couple of things that I do want to point out. So I do prefer AD to LeBron pretty significantly. I think it's more likely that I have no LeBron today than I get to the field. He's 16% owned on FanDuel, 20% owned on DraftKings. I assume I'm just going to have very little or none. AD will be the guy that I'm probably with the field or slightly heavy on. Just strikes me as a better spot for Anthony Davis. But the guy I like the most here, Dennis Schroeder on FanDuel is 6,100. He's 5,800 on DK. He's the guy that I'm a little bit more likely to get to. And I think I'm being pretty pessimistic with his projection. Only 0.8 fantasy points per minute in this spot. But I think he's going a little bit under-owned. I'm going to get to more Schroeder than anything else. After that, I think everybody's sort of over-owned. KCP, to me, over-owned on both sites. I've already mentioned LeBron. I don't have a ton of interest in going to Andre Drummond. Kyle Kuzma's at 8% ownership on FanDuel. Even that, to me, is too low, or too high, rather. I don't think Montrezl Harrell's coming back into this particular game, so I assume it's Marc Gasol. He's 4,100 on FanDuel, 3,200 on DK. I think that you can get to Marc Gasol on DK if you're looking for a bit of value. It's not going to be exciting, and there's always the potential that he doesn't see the floor at all. But I think they're going to try to start getting him loose in preparation for round number 2. So I think Marc Gasol could be a little sneaky today.
I'm just looking at doing a little fantasy cruncher lineup building, lineup study of my own over here. And yeah, I mean, you could maybe make a case for Schroeder as a real 1%er in terms of your top projected lineups. If you were to go through the exercise of building out your top options, I mean, I wouldn't say it's a fade the whole game situation necessarily, but you know, there's not a lot of Lakers love in here. There's at all. I mean, you think most lineups are going to ditch LA altogether?
Well, I hope they don't, because I think they're bad plays. So I hope that most lineups play them. They have more ownership than I think they should have right now. Only Anthony Davis and Dennis Schroeder showed up in the optimal lineup more than 10% of the time for me. We've got those two guys plus LeBron pretty significantly, plus KCP. We've got Drummond and Caruso on the outside, just barely looking in. I just kind of hope that people do go to LA and it fails.
Well, we'll see how it works out, obviously, on that end. We get to a game that you got more compelling options, no doubt about it, both sides of the ball for that matter. So let's start with the Nuggets here. Nick Jokic, Michael Porter Jr., who's really coming to his own over the course of the season now that he's shown he can be healthy and productive out there on the court. Big price gap between those two, but excellent spots, arguably even better, quite frankly, for Porter in terms of, again, points per dollar, not overall performance necessarily. You're probably not going to get a 60 burger out of him, whereas we depend upon that from Joker. You can pay down Austin Rivers. Looks like he's in a pretty good spot as well. Who do you like here for the Nuggets?
Well, Michael Porter Jr. is probably the best play on the slate, given his ownership. 29.5 on FanDuel. I think it should be 45.5, 32.5 on DraftKings. I think it should be north of 50. I don't know why he's priced like he is. 7,500 on FanDuel, 7,100 on DK. He's a 1.1 fantasy point per minute guy against Portland. He's going to play 38 minutes or more. I want more Michael Porter Jr. than anything. To me, Denver's going a bit underlooked, especially on FanDuel. But Porter, I don't understand why he's not picking up more ownership. What more could you want for his price? It's not like he's some 0.8 guy. This is a guy that's really productive and playing big minutes. He's the unquestioned best player in this game to me, relative to current ownership. Because like guys like Covington, McCollum, these guys are picking up ownership as well already. Porter doesn't appear to be doing that. So lock and load on Michael Porter. I'm happy to be with the field on Nikola Jokic. I think that ownership is pretty proper. Aaron Gordon, to me, going a bit under-owned, 5,600 and 5,800. No, sorry, 5,600 and 5,300 FanDuel and DraftKings, respectively. Campazzo, to me, going a little bit under-owned, especially on FanDuel at 5,800. Austin Rivers is the guy that's tripping me up. Because of the position on FanDuel, I think you got to get to him, but he's 30% owned, and I think he's ripe to lose more minutes than he did in game 2. If Monty Morris has the ability to play 30 minutes a game, he's going to slowly get those minutes back. I'm a little nervous about the true upside of Austin Rivers at this point. He grades out really well. He's basically a neutral play to me, but I think the downside outweighs the upside for game 3.
So I would say the answer is no to this question, but I'm I'm just the talking head. You're the expert right here. Is there enough value available to the people to go with a lineup that has Giannis and Jokic tonight and to feel good about it?
Probably, but I can give you an actual answer.
Sure.
Let me pull up Fantasy Cruncher quickly to see what my optimal is, and then what is the highest score I can get with those two guys locked. So my optimal on DraftKings has a projection of 274.8. If I lock Giannis and Jokic and run that again, the optimal is 264.1. So we lose 10.7 fantasy points, which is right on the edge of being a little bit of a problem. But on a 3-game slate, you can give up a little bit more in projection to be a little bit different. So I think that you can get there, but there's not going to be a wealth of options with that combination. It's just too much salary, not enough value for right now.
So it's more of a choose one versus the other night, obviously, and balance things out with, some of the Butlers of the world, some of the other really good plays.
Yeah, more often than not. Like the main lineup that I got with those two guys locked has Anthony Simons at 3,100 and Cam Johnson at 3,700 as potential value plays. You got to get those guys right more than anything. That's the trickier part.
You know what I find pretty interesting is, going through the Fantasy Cruncher process and building out that top projected lineup on DraftKings. It actually has neither of those guys.
Yeah, mine doesn't either. And that's because of the value on guys like Butler and Adebayo, the fact that Michael Porter's 7,100. Like, it's super easy to fill out in the mid-tier and build a balanced lineup today. And that's another reason why I'm not getting to much LeBron. Like, he already doesn't look as good to me as the other pay-up options. And those pay-up options don't look as good because this upper mid-tier is just wildly underpriced.
No, there's no doubt about it. And just to highlight or accentuate what Josh was just saying here, it's not like, okay, there's no Giannis, there's no Joker, so there must be Dame, right? There must be LeBron. No, I mean it's a completely balanced lineup. Looking at what you can get here in terms of the top projected lineup. Now that only means so much, as we know, but there's a lot of balance there between Butler, like you said, Adebayo, Porter, Yusuf Nurkic, who we can talk about now. He's on the other side of this game. We haven't gotten there yet. Let's see. You've got a lot of great plays. Damian Lillard is in a very good spot. You could pay down Nurkic, CJ McCollum, Norman Powell, Robert Covington again, who's projected for almost 6x value. Just a lot of options on the Blazers side.
Well, I'm going to advocate pretty aggressively for Robert Covington, and then I'm going to point out the fact that Alex has him projected 4 points higher than I do right now.
There you go.
I love him, and it's even going to be bigger love when it comes to the
If I'm wrong, he's more wrong.
Yeah, so I'll be going to Covington, 4,500 and 4,400. It's just value if he's playing 34 minutes or more. 43% owned on FanDuel. There aren't a ton of options at the position. He's 32% owned on DraftKings. I think both of those numbers are too low. And I think most of Portland is too low. I think CJ is under-owned, even at 42% on FanDuel. I think he should be well north of 50% at 7,300. Similar story on DraftKings. I think 25% ownership is not enough for CJ. I think Norm Powell is under-owned. I think Damian Lillard is under-owned. I think Yusuf Nurkic is under-owned. All of those on DraftKings. I think Nurkic is a little bit too expensive on FanDuel. But this is the game to target. It's got the biggest total. It's the game that you expect to be probably most competitive and most offensive. So I want to get to more of this game in lieu of some of that uglier stuff that we saw earlier. I love the starting five for Portland. I don't mind taking some random shots on Melo if today's the day that they're going to throw some minutes at him. Anthony Simons at 3,100. There are worse pay down options in the world if he's going to be part of the rotation. I love getting to Portland. They're my favorite team today.
Buddy says he's fading Joker and all the heat. What do you think?
I mean, depends how many lineups you're playing. I would have a hard time fading him in 150 lineups if fade means 0, but it's kind of easy to get away from a pay up star today if you want to. There's enough options out there that go different directions.
Yeah, I figured you'd be more alarmed by the all the heat remark.
All the heat is real scary, but I get the narrative of that play.
Yeah, I understand that. What about, and I know there's not a lot of value tonight as we know it right now, and again, being the playoffs, we don't expect much to change. Like, I don't see any guys that are sub 4K, at least on DraftKings, that you would want to take a run on tonight. But do you have who's your favorite lower price guy? It would look like for Alex, based on projections and value opportunity and the like, Austin Rivers, Duncan Robinson, guys in that general range, Robert Covington, who we just talked about. Those few guys are probably at the top of the list. Are they the same for you?
If we're talking sub 4K, Cam Johnson,
none of those are sub 4K, but just your favorite, cheaper guys.
Yeah. So Cam Johnson and Anthony Simons would be my two favorite guys, sub 4K. If we want to say in that 4 to 4,900 range, Covington is quite clearly at the top. I think Jay Crowder would be second. And then maybe someone like Brooke Lopez would be third, 4,700.
Any thoughts that you guys have? Mix it in, obviously, the YouTube chat. Well, we've got you for another little bit here before we do get out. Someone had mentioned, I don't remember who it was a while ago in the chat, but I bookmarked it up here, the comment anyway. So making fun of you and Laffy, I guess, saying that Ja Morant was never going to be all NBA. Then he goes and does what he does last night. Any thoughts, any response to the people, or at least that one person?
Yeah, I don't give a shit about someone's career based on one individual game. Probably not going to make a difference. Look, I think he's going to be really good. And, if he makes an all NBA team, I won't be shocked, but I'm a little nervous about his size and his ability to shoot the three. Now, no one's ever going to care about his defense, even though it's really, really bad. We'll see where that ends up. But look, there's a lot of talent in the NBA right now. And to not make all NBA is not a slight by any means. Like, look, Mike Conley is honestly one of my favorite players over the past 10 plus years. We're talking about a guy that did not make an all-star game up until this year. Like, it's a really high bar to make your way into, in an all NBA discussion, a top 15 in the NBA player. Like, that's really difficult. That's not a slight by any means. I just, to me, Ja is more likely to be a constant all-star game guy than an all NBA guy. He's popular. He's flashy. It looks good. If they're winning, he's got a much better chance of doing that stuff. I think Ja Morant's all NBA candidacy in the future is going to have a lot to do with how good Jaren Jackson ends up being.
Voodoo Chicken, which is just a fun YouTube username, says, who do you got as your top center option on DK? One of those big boys, I assume.
It's probably Robert Covington. Robert Covington, and then DeAndre Ayton, if you mean more of a center. I think that Covington is tops. Ayton, Nurkic, and Bam would be like a trio in this next tier.
Keep on hitting that like. Appreciate you guys. Get to 150 before we get out of here. We're real close. Let's move on over to Odd Shopper. And if you guys have any other additional questions, thoughts, comments, whatever it is on tonight's slate, the 3-gamer, happy to mix those in. One of the biggest edges in sports betting, though, is always shopping for the best odds that are available to you. And of course, the best betting lines changes. They change by the minute, can vary greatly depending on which book that you are using, which is why here at Awesemo, we have the Odd Shopper to find the very best line available to you for a game or player prop that you're betting on, give you that edge to help you beat the house, folks. Head on over to oddshopper.awesemo.com. We compile the best bets available for game lines, player props, player and team futures, all updated in real time. I know Josh right here, he doesn't want to spend as much time on the money line, on totals. Loves the player props. So let's get into the player props with some of the available options for you. Giannis, 28.5 points. What do you think?
I'm mashing the over. I've got him at 31.1.
Okay, that's what I like to hear. Drew Holiday, his teammate, 18.5.
I got him at 19.1. So I'd probably stay away from it, but still leaning slightly over.
One of those value guys, Duncan Robinson, we talked about, 13.5.
I have him at 13 on the dot. So I would be more likely to take the under there. When Duncan Robinson hits the over on that one, he probably hits it by like 15 points.
Yeah, right. What about Dennis Schroeder? 14.5 coming off the day that he had.
I got 15.7. So that's another one where I would actually take the over.
Devin Booker for the Suns. Other side of that game, 28.5.
Ooh, I like Devin Booker today, but I've got him at 27. That might be one that I have to look at a little bit. Maybe give him a bit of a usage bump if Chris Paul is going to be limited.
LeBron out there doing LeBron things, not necessarily an indication of a huge fantasy night, but points 24.5. What do you think?
Well, that makes me feel a lot better about my thought process on him in GPPs because I have him at 26.5 and I still don't really like him as a DFS play today. If he's at 2 full points lower than that, I mean, he really is a 0% guy to me.
MPJ, Michael Porter Jr., 23.5.
I've got the over 25.9, but I am very heavy on Michael Porter Jr. today.
These are interesting. Couple of guys that are north of 30. Damian Lillard, depending on the book that you're looking at, let's put him at 33 even because the under is 32.5 or and over, is 33.5. So let's put him right at 33.
I got him at 31. So I'm apparently a little light on Dame, but I'm still very heavy on Portland. So it might be one that I have to take a look at a little bit deeper.
What about 32 for Joker?
I got him at 29.7. So I might be underrepresenting Jokic here.
Okay.
I'm a little light. Again, not that I don't like him in DFS, but if I give him like 2 or 3 more points, he's going to be a very different play for me.
Is there it's hard to know, obviously. There's more of a crystal ball question for you. Who's that guy that you think is just the expected letdown tonight? The guy that he's going to be reasonably well owned, he's going to be pretty popular, who is just in a classic spot for disappointment?
I mean, I think it's probably LeBron, given that that points prop, given where I see his ownership at right now. Although, yeah, I mean, LeBron is at the highest of my metric in terms of my sim score versus public ownership. So LeBron James.
All right.
That's not fun to say out loud.
It's time. It's time. The DVD pull. What do we got?
All righty. All right, let me look. Let's figure this out here.
You can go left, you can go right, you can go high, you can go low. So many.
All right, we're gonna go. All right. Basically, like, all right, where the Taco Bell dog is?
Sure.
We're gonna go diagonal to the upper right.
Okay.
And then let's do.
You're talking over here?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Let's do the third in from the right.
Okay. All right. This is an oldie. I don't even remember if it's any good, to be perfectly honest with you. Domestic Disturbance.
Yo. Okay.
John Travolta.
Pause. I could walk through this. That movie is filmed here.
Is that right?
Yes, it is. Not only that, go ahead and list off the people that are in that movie.
Oh, you got
particular good character
cast. Obviously,
yeah.
Top heavy with Travolta and Vince Vaughn. And we don't see Vince Vaughn in this type of role as much anymore.
He's the bad guy
of him looking to scare the crap out of you. Steve Buscemi, I see him pictured on the back.
Pause this right here. Jordan Klein, while you're in the background here, if you want to do this, Google Steve Buscemi stabbed. Yes, Steve Buscemi, while filming Domestic Disturbance in Wilmington, North Carolina, was stabbed multiple times outside of Fire Bellies because Vince Vaughn hit on the guy's girlfriend.
No. Vince Vaughn hit on the guy's girlfriend. Buscemi had to pay for it.
They had to pause filming for an extended amount of time. He got stabbed like 10 times or something stupid, a bunch in the face, in the neck. Yeah. He got stabbed. Fire Belly's no longer in that location, unfortunately, but they do serve frog legs.
That's a tough situation. You got
what a pull.
Terry Polo, is that her name? She's recognizable. Entertainment Weekly called it a quintessential thriller. Look at Jordan. He's even pulling up Buscemi on the screen share, looking up the stabbed article.
It'll be there. That'll be what, like 2001, 2002, something like that?
In this edge of your seat thriller, John Travolta, who they credit, that's my favorite on these older DVDs, is which movies they shout you out for. You know how they do that? Like put you in the John Travolta, parentheses, Grease, is like what you would expect. John Travolta, Be Cool, Ladder 49. Stars as Frank Morrison, a man who discovers that his son's new stepfather, Vince Vaughn, Wedding Crashers, and Mr. and Mrs. Smith. How we landed on Mr. and Mrs. Smith there, I don't know. Is not who he pretends to be.
Hold on, does that say Wedding Crashers?
Yeah, it actually does.
How is that possible?
Based on the year, you mean?
Yeah, that came out before Wedding Crashers, didn't it?
It did, but obviously the DVD itself didn't.
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously, so did Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Because Wedding Crashers was probably what, like 03, 04, something like that.
Yeah, and not to mention, his role in Mr. and Mrs. Smith is like 5 minutes long. He's just like the extra guy that they go over and see. That whole movie is Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie.
Yeah, like I said, I don't understand how some of these credits work on.
How do you not say Swingers or something like that?
Right,
Vince Vaughn.
Right, exactly.
A movie that he's like the guy,
focal point, a main character.
Yeah, Wedding Crashers works.
Frank's investigation into this man's past explodes into a terrifying mission to rescue his son from the ultimate danger. This chilling, critically acclaimed hit will have your heart pounding from start to finish. That's WWOR TV. Now I kind of want to watch it.
Yeah.
I just don't remember this movie at all.
So I remembered it. That is a movie that came out right at the time that I was working in the video store. So I saw it a lot. Then when I moved here, I learned that it was filmed here and that Steve Buscemi got stabbed outside of Firebellies. Yeah.
DFS Czar. Any Halle Berry movies up there? Monsters Ball or Swordfish? I'm sure there are Halle Berry movies. I don't have Monsters Ball or Swordfish up there.
You're not missing anything.
Swordfish,
I mean, obviously,
is regarded as one of the worst.
You're missing those tiggle bitties, but other than that,
Swordfish. If we're gonna link it up to Domestic Disturbance, John Travolta, he was in that. Our man Jordan with the wrench says Josh has not been this excited on a stream all year.
It's just exciting. I know a lot about that movie.
It's the magic of the DVD pull. Hey, being a video store alum, have you watched the Last Blockbuster documentary on Netflix?
I have not. It is. I did add it to my list of things that I need to watch in the near future. And my buddy did watch it and reported back and said like it was worth watching. So
it's really good.
It's on the short list.
I watched it a couple days ago.
It's on the short list.
Yeah, as someone who I never worked at a video store, but I had multiple friends that did, and so I spent a lot of time there. I was basically like Randall and Clerks. That's
how my friends were for me. They would just be there all day.
Yeah, just hanging out, and obviously being the cinephile that I am. Much love for all things video store. It was cool to see that the one that remains in Bend, Oregon.
Yeah, it's so awesome. Yeah, but the video store that I worked at is no longer a video store.
Steven says this was a Kauf Walmart bargain bin purchase. It might have been.
Oh, it's a better movie than that.
Can't imagine I spent a lot of money on it. All right, so to reset before we get out of here, because there's much more coming up here on this Awesemo YouTube day, cross sports, not just basketball. For anyone that joined us late, your favorite plays tonight, price irrelevant, are, and feel free to go site by site.
Draftkings, Michael Porter Jr., Robert Covington, Norm Powell, Jimmy Butler, DeAndre Ayton, CJ McCollum. On FanDuel, CJ McCollum, Robert Covington, Mikal Bridges, Dante DiVincenzo, Michael Porter Jr.
There you go. And while you're at it, check out the Contenders video.
Yes.
As you should.
While you're at it, go watch Domestic Disturbance, filmed in Wilmington, North Carolina.
And just think, the entire time that you're watching this, Steve Buscemi got stabbed. What would Steve Buscemi's random credit movies be?
I have no idea.
I'd have to pull up his IMDb and find the obscure ones. Like, what is
He's
Steve
probably
Buscemi's
been in so much
Mr.
random
Mrs.
stuff.
Smith? Like
it's got to be a lot of random stuff. Hey, by the way, Steve Buscemi also in Armageddon.
Oh my God. If ever there were a time for us to go, it is right now. Thanks for all being with us. Hit that like. We're almost at the 150. We're just about there. So keep on smashing that thing on your way out the door. And we appreciate you being here with us. As always, obviously, when I get to parachute in on a Thursday, and we're running out of these in the NBA season. So let's continue to make the most of them as well. Always good fun. And, it's you guys just looking at some of the people in the chat as well. Thanks for hanging out here with us. The 3-game slate locks 7:30 Eastern tonight. So you got 8.5 hours or so to really think about all this stuff coming up over the course of the day today. You have in a couple of minutes MLB Live Before Lock at 12:30, the Monkey Knife Fight NBA show. Ehrenberg will be involved in that. Eric as well, I believe. At 2 o'clock Eastern Time, NHL Strategy Show. At 3, MLB Deeper Dive. Then at 5, really diving back into basketball. You got the NBA, the tip-off, and then 5:30, NBA Deeper Dive, NBA Live Before Lock at 6:30. So you are just getting a little appetizer here of basketball knowledge compared to what is coming up over the course of the day. Our thanks to producer Jordan and Josh, who is definitely, absolutely going to watch Domestic Disturbance again at some point today. I am Adam Kaufman. Thanks for being with us. We'll catch you next time. See you, bud.